And now I want to move on to the second topic we have today is how to get booked or for gigs, right? And so let's start with like, what if you want to get hired for, how do I say this? What if you want to get hired for the big jobs? Like, think of the biggest event in the world for your dance style. Like for Lindy Hop, it's the Harangue Dance Camp. And then underneath that, you got like Studio Hop Dance Camp, Lindy Shock, Lindy Focus, all these basically week-long things, or like the biggest ones where it's just like, we'll come to it and the best instructors are teaching at it, right? I want you to think about how would you get hired to teach those jobs? And even if you don't want to work at that level, even if you're perfectly happy just getting a few local teaching gigs, let's start with that and then work our way down to things that are maybe less, what's the word? You don't need to be as good to get to that level. So what do you think it takes to be hired by those events, right? I want you to jump into the mind of an organizer that's hiring people for this event. What are they looking for, right? What are they looking for? And now I can tell you, like, I have some experience as an organizer for one of these events. I ran the biggest dance event for Fusion, right? Fusion is its own thing. I don't need to go into what it is, but it's kind of a style or a community of dancers similar to Lingo or Ballroom, these communities, right? Fusion is a community event that had 600 people coming to it from all over, not just the US, but people even came from outside of the US to come to this event. And it was by far the biggest event for Fusion dance. And I think the next biggest event was maybe 300 or something like that. So it was quite a substantial amount bigger than any other dance event. And so I know what it's like looking for people and who I'm going to hire and all this stuff. And not only that, but I've also hired people for much smaller jobs and done the range of like, okay, this is a 100-person event, you know, and that's different. We think differently when we're hiring to teach for 100 people than when we're hiring to teach for 600 people. Okay, so when you're hiring to teach for, you know, for 600 people, there's a few things that you need from those instructors, right? And maybe not everything, but we're definitely looking for these things, and the people that have the most combination of these things get hired, right? So one of the things, and I want you to think, what are those things? Just take a second. What do you think those things are? Brainstorm it for 20 seconds. Okay, so think about, did you come up with some of the things that I look for? Just to see how well you brainstorm this. And, you know, as you go, you want to try to improve your brainstorms so that they become more, I want to say, like more accurate towards your goal. So for me, when I'm looking for it, one, if I'm putting on an event with 600 people, there's no way that that person is going to dance with every single person, right? So, but there is a way that every single person can see them, right? So they do visually need to have a decent look to their dancing. Like at that level, we are looking for someone that looks good to some degree. And I'll make exceptions. I'll be like, you know what, this person feels really great. I'm not going to hire them to do a demonstration or I'm not going to put them in front of people, but like they just are so amazing at the feel of the dance. I want them to teach people how to make their feel amazing. But there is some degree of like, one thing that stands out is people that look good. Thing that stands out is people that can teach to large audiences, right? And if you don't have any teaching experience teaching to, you know, I mean, at least 50 people at a time, but ideally maybe 100, you know, 100 plus, then it's going to be harder for me to hire you, right? Because I need someone who's going to be able to handle a crowd. Another thing is I'm looking for people that already travel the world teaching, right? Because it's important for me to actually have, like, if I'm going for an event that's that size, huge budget, right? Like meaning, or expenses. I have $80,000 in expenses at some of my events, right? So if I have that much expenses, I need to get in 600 people to cover those costs, which means I need dance instructors who are traveling the world teaching dance that can put the word out, right? And even if they don't physically put the word out and like actually advertise the event, just by traveling to teach, the other people are going to search their name on the internet, and if they like their classes, they're going to search where are they teaching next or something, and they're going to find my event. So I'm going to get more people coming to it because these people are traveling. Just the name reputation alone is something that's important at that level, right? How many people know them? If I advertise, you know, and I put their name out, how many people are going to see that and go, oh wow, I want to go to that event because I know this person. So your odds are stacked against you at these big events of being able to get hired, because if your name isn't out there, if you aren't already traveling the world teaching dance and all that stuff, then it's going to be incredibly difficult. So, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means you need to have a strategy for getting your name out, right? For traveling to teach the world and all that kind of stuff. And believe it or not, you can do this at any level. I've seen people do this that, like, when I see them dance, I'm like, really? This person is traveling the world teaching dance? Like, and they get hired by the same people that hire me, and I'm like, really? Like, I can't believe them. But it's because they had something they had something that was of value to that person. Maybe they're not perfect, but they had something. And that's all you need, is to have something and know how to make sure the other person that's hiring you knows that you have something. Yeah. So okay, so let's say, all right, so if you want to get hired at the big events, you got to start traveling the world teaching at the smaller events, right? At the smaller events, get your name out there. That's what I did for the first, I don't know how many years it was, probably 5 years that I was traveling teaching dance before I ever got hired. Well, I got hired at one big event relatively early on, but then it was mostly a bunch of small events, and all those small events got me recognized, and got other people started hiring me for the big events because they heard my name. I got out there. So how do you get hired for the smaller events then? And I've got some really cool ways of doing this that really like are so powerful. And let's see, I want to break this down into sections. Yeah, and I'll say right now, like, I mean, we only have 19 minutes to go through this, so obviously I can't go through everything. I'm actually going to be doing a training coming up soon that's a 4-week-long group training that's going to go into more detail than I can go into right now, but I'm going to give you the outline of what you need to do. And to be honest, like, if you have that outline, you can probably get away with doing it to some degree. It's just a matter of how well it's going to work for you. You know, are you going to, if you contact 50 people, are you jobs, or are you going to get 3 jobs, right? And that's kind of the difference, is just by having more and more detail, you'll get more, but at the same time, just having an outline and then like plugging away, because that's all I did at first. I didn't even have an outline, to be honest, anything. I went to business seminars and stuff like that trained on real estate and completely other things, and I took their like their processes, and then I redeveloped them for dance and created my own like outline. But then I had to go deep and like I had to problem solve and just go, okay, this didn't work for me this time. How do I make it work next time? Right? So if I were to outline it, I would outline it in this. First, you got to find what we call prospects, people that you, right? And then once you've got these people that might hire you, you've got to get them. I mean, you could say the next step is you got to get them to hire you. And then the next step would be to hire you, right? And if you do that, if you're able to get people, find people, get them to hire you, and then get them to rehire you, you're going to be successful, right? If you only find people and then get them to hire you, but you don't get them to rehire you, there's something going on there that means that you're not going to be successful. Something in your teaching, something in your process, basically something that said it was not worth doing it again. So all three steps are important, and at the same time we can break it down even more granular and go there's steps in between the steps, right? And think about, okay, first off, like if I let's say I found people to hire me and now I need to get them to hire me. Well, the step in between that most people forget about is like, before I can even get them to hire me, I need them to be willing to talk to me, right? That's a huge step that most people forget. And like, I know because I've had people send me, like I've had a lot of people send me their emails that they're going to send to their prospects, that they're like, oh, here's the email that I'm going to send my prospect. And it's like, hey, I'm coming to look to teach in your town. And, you know, would you be interested in hiring me? Here's my rates and here's what I can teach. And it's this huge email with all these different things. And it's like, you know, if I were an organizer and I didn't know you, like, there's no way I would even respond to you because your email's too long. It's too much. It's like, you know, you haven't built a relationship with me. And even if you have built a relationship with me, and I already know who you are, I probably still wouldn't respond because it's just too much, right? So first thing is to get them to even respond to you, right? So start with something super short, something that just gets them to say, hey, like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, give me a little bit more information about this. So you got to start crafting your email or your phone call or whatever it is. I did email. And I know phone calls are more, definitely a higher level of conversion. But I was really good with email. I got very high, I would say over 50% conversion rates with my emails of getting people to respond. Maybe not quite 50% with responses, but once people did respond, almost 50, I'd say over 50% actually like hired me, right? But that's because I was really good at solving their problems and helping them hire me, making it easy for them. And it was because I chose the right, I don't want to say the right people. I chose the people that would most likely to hire me, right? I didn't choose the big events like the Harang Dance Camp and these 600 or 1,000 or 5,000 people dance events. I picked, and here's a hint, like I went for people that had never put on a dance event before in their life, right? That like, they didn't even think they could. Right? Because check it out. It's a huge difference. Now my competition is zero, right? They're not even thinking of hiring anyone yet, right? I have no competition. It's literally just, my only competition is whether they think they can do it or not. Whether I can give them the inspiration and the process of like, here's how to bring me out there and here's how to be successful with it, right? So when you're searching for prospects, if you're new and you are not a big name, then you got to find people that are willing to hire you because they never even thought of hiring someone before. It's just like, oh wow, I could bring someone out to teach. That'd be really cool. I'd love to do that, but I never thought I could. And so you start with those people. And then the question is, how do we find those people, right? Like now we got to break down, if we're going to break down finding prospects or getting prospects to contact, we want to break down the steps of how do we find those people, right? And there's a lot of different ways. I mean, one way is to just travel for teach, or not even to teach dance, but just travel a lot and get contacts, right? When I traveled to teach dance, if I met someone, I was getting their contact information. You know, back then there wasn't Facebook, so it was just like getting their email. And I'd just be like, oh yeah, let's keep in touch. Give me your email. And I get them that way. And then eventually I did start teaching, and I'd get contacts. When I taught one place, I'd get a whole bunch of people asking, you know, oh, how do I keep in touch with you? You know, and I get other contacts. Eventually Facebook came in, started getting contacts that way. Another way that was the most successful tour I ever did was my first tour that I went to Australia. I'd never been to Australia. I only knew one person. And I contacted that one person. I said, hey, do you know anyone out? I'm looking to do a tour of Australia. Do you know any people that might be interested in hiring me? They gave me the names of like 3 people, right? I contacted those 3 people and said the same thing. And they gave me, I don't think most of them did. Maybe one of them gave me a few people to contact, you know, and I did it that way. But then I just looked online. I searched Australia Lindy Hop, right? And then I searched Perth Lindy Hop, Sydney Lindy Hop, and all these, like I looked on a map and I just started looking at all the big cities and started searching for dance studios or clubs or anybody that was linked to Lindy Hop in different areas of Australia. And I'd contact them. I'd either find their email, right, and contact them through just sending them an email, or I would, sometimes they wouldn't even give their email. They just have like contact us by entering and send us a message here, and you'd have to give them your email. So I'd do that. And then now you got to think about, okay, so I've got these people that don't know me, right? How do I get them to want to hire me, right? Like, and you can't just, like, you got to start having them by getting them excited about it, right? So it's got to be super simple, like super short email about the concept of hiring you, and or about inspiring them, right? So think about, like, what could you do to inspire someone to hire you, right? What are the things to do? And if I were to outline it really briefly so that we can move on to another section, I would say the outline would be, hi, my name's Andrew. I'm a Lindy Hop instructor that's looking to, you know, and I can say where I'm from, or it probably doesn't even matter. Although, actually, if you're from somewhere outside of their country, that is a big deal. I would say, you know, I'm a Lindy Hopper from California. I'm looking to do a teaching tour of Australia. Would you be interested in hiring me, right? I'd probably be upfront right then, very quickly, and then, like, so they know what the email is about. Some people might want to wait till later, but I like to be really upfront about what the purpose of my email is. And then I'd say, now at this point, the thing that's going through most people's head is, why the hell would I want to hire you, right? Like that is what's going in their head. I don't know you. Why would I want to hire you? So that's the question you got to answer, right? And you don't need to brag too much. You don't need to go into detail, but you can say, you know, if you don't know who I am, here's a little bit, and then you give your top things about you. You know, if you won a championship, great. If you've already traveled some different places and taught, you can mention that. Maybe you've taught a lot in your hometown, so you could just say, you know, I've taught thousands of dancers in my own hometown, and now I'm looking to teach elsewhere. But if you don't have that much as far as credentials, then this paragraph should be super short. It doesn't need to be much because there's other ways to get people interested in hiring you besides your credentials. I know when I was traveling, mine was just a couple lines just saying, you know, I've won a few competitions, and it wasn't that big of a buildup of what I've done so far. My buildup was in my class descriptions, right? That's where I wanted people to get excited, because who cares like what I've done? It's what can I do for your students that's really going to make the difference. And so I worked on giving really killer class descriptions so that when someone read those, they'd be like, oh yeah, that'd be cool for our students to learn, you know, or maybe even I want to learn that, right? If I can write the class descriptions and a high-level dancer at Oregon and goes, ooh, that's cool, I want to learn that, then my odds of getting hired are much, much higher, right? Think about it. Think about like if you heard something that was just like, oh, I want to learn that, odds are you'd be willing to hire someone even if their credentials aren't high just because they've got a cool concept. So that's it. That's my email. It's, hi, here's who I am. Would you be interested in hiring me? Here, if you don't know me, here's a quick intro to me and maybe a link to my website. Really cool. And I have like some interesting things on it, maybe some performances or something else that might attract their attention. I could do that. Although at first, I don't even think I had a website that I linked to. So you don't need a website. But, and then it was, let me know if you're interested and I'll give you more details. P.S. Here's some class descriptions. That's what I'd throw it in the P.S. Here's some ideas of what I could teach. And the reason why I do it in the P.S. is because a lot of people skip straight to the P.S. I don't know why, but people for some reason just jump down and read the P.S. and they kind of skip the middle of the email. They might read the beginning and then the P.S. So that's where I put like a really strong piece of my content is like class descriptions. And you could even start with just like 3 or 4 really like your best classes. And then it's all about remember the only goal of this email, and that's really key. Every time you do something, it's got to have one goal, right? The only goal of this email is to get them to respond to you, to respond in like, I would say in some way, like to either say they're interested or to say they're interested, or even to say they're not interested, right? But just to get a response, to get a conversation going. Because if they say they're not interested, odds are they're going to tell you a reason why, like, we're actually super swamped, is a very common response. And the cool thing is then all you have to do is, now they've responded to you, right? So now you can respond back. It's polite. It's good to, you know, to respond to someone that's responded to you. So it's not annoying. If they haven't responded to you, you can get on their nerves by continuously being like, hey, blah, 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 you know. And there is a way to do it, but it's not as easy, right? And I'll definitely go over the ways to do it in our longer training, how to respond to someone that isn't responding to you. But I want to move on and just say, like, get them to respond to you, right? The next section, I don't know, should I deep dive of the responses or should we go on to getting hired? Let's go on to getting hired and just say, like, there's a ton more we have in just the getting a response section, but now they've responded. Let's assume that they responded and they said, I'm interested, but, right? Now, if they said, I'm interested, but, then the next key is to get them beyond their but. You do not go into the details of your offer yet. You have to get them to the point where they're just like, yes, I'm interested. before you can go into giving them their offer. So if they have issues, you have to help them solve those problems, right? I'm interested, but right now is not the right time. Okay, let me solve that problem for you by asking you when the right time would be, right? When should I contact you back? Or I'm interested, but I don't know, I don't know that I can bring someone in that, is flying from the US all the way to Australia. That's going to be a huge expense. So I don't think we can do this because it's just going to cost too much. Great, let me solve that. There's actually a way that we can do this where as long as you get 15 people in your classes, we'll break even, right? Now, you have to have an offer that backs that up, but I have offers that back that up. I have ways of making it so that I can do it so that there's as little as 10 people showing up to the class and we break even. And it depends, like every offer is a little bit different places. Sometimes it needs to be 15, but often it can be as little as 10. And again, we'll go into that in more detail when we do the full month-long, or the 4-week training. And you'll hear more about that soon. It is not included in your subscription because it's a lot more intense training with more stuff. I will be giving you guys first option to purchase it at the lowest rate that it's going to be at ever. So keep an ear out, pay attention for that. It will be coming soon, and I'll send several emails about it so you won't miss it as long as you're opening your emails in the next month, the month of April, right? So what next? So then you have to have a killer offer. And then once you give them a killer offer that's just like, there is no way that like people are going to say no, at least not 99, 50% of people are going to say yes to this offer, like it's just killer, then you've got them, right? They're hiring you. The next step is to get rehired, right? And to get rehired, you've got to make sure that your classes are awesome. Or here's the trick, or there's one other way to get rehired. What do you think? That give you a hint. The answer is already in the execution plans that you guys have access to on how to teach kick-ass private lessons and how to get rebooked for private lessons and become sold out, right? The answer is in there. What do you think it is? Go ahead and say it out right now. Okay, even if you just have a gut thought, just share your gut thought to yourself right now, even if you think it's wrong. Yeah, that's something I want you guys to get used to, is just start sharing your gut. Someone asks you a question and you have a response in your head, just say that thing out loud. And you don't always have to do this to other people, but especially when you're on a training like this, get used to just like saying your first thought and then seeing, is my thought accurate? Like how good, or maybe it's even better than what I share with you. Sometimes what I share with you, your thought will be even better than that. How cool is that, right? A lot of the time, I've spent 15 years thinking about this stuff. A lot of times my idea will be a better idea for you, a more accurate, more efficient idea for you. But practice just sharing your ideas, because if you don't, that's a big spot that's going to hold you back from getting anywhere. Is you're just going to be stuck, never actually trying stuff. So the answer is ask for feedback. Like, because here's the thing, you will not get rehired if you did not do a good job and you don't find out that you didn't do a good job, and you don't get and you don't then get the feedback and then adjust, right? So one of the things you can do is be like, okay, was it worth it for you? Do you have any feedback? Like, and if they say yes, that's the moment you go, okay, you want it there? Like, yes, it was worth it. Sweet, let's book it again, right? Not everybody will book it, but if you at least ask, like a lot of people will, and it makes sense. They just said it was worth it. Why wouldn't they want to do it again? right? And this is the moment, if you did a good job, this is the moment where they're at the highest like level of interest of hiring you. They're like, oh yeah, that was awesome. So so you can probably get a good chance of they'll book you, they'll say yes, right? And now some of you might, if you, depending on what level you're at and how many jobs you're already getting, you might want to go ahead and like ask for a down payment. Ask for, okay, can you go ahead and put $100 towards it? And you might want to give them a discount for doing that. You go, well, if you put down $100 right now to just go ahead and book that spot so I don't book it with anyone else, I'll give you $100 off of the price, you know, or whatever, a decent discount. Maybe it's a 10% discount off of the whole price of bringing you out again. So that's a great way to get rebooked. And getting rebooked is, one, it's way easier than trying to get someone who's never hired you before. So it's definitely a way to get sold out, is just to start getting rebooked, right? And if you forget, don't worry, it's not that big of a deal. Like I have done many a job where I just went in, taught the job, and forgot to ask to get rebooked, and asked a few months later, or even 6 months later, or something like that. So it's not the end all. Like, in fact, out of you right now, like every single tip I give you is going to help you be more successful, right? Most likely. Maybe some of the tips suck, I don't know, but I doubt it. Most of them are pretty good tips. Every one is going to help you be a little more successful, but none of them are needed. If you just get out there and start doing stuff, you're going to be successful to some degree. It's just a matter of how successful you'll be. And yes, the more education you get, the more you prep yourself, the more your first success is going to be really great. And I do recommend like educate as possible, because it's so much easier to do things when you're successful and when you're actually like making a good living off of it. Then getting more successful is easier because you can afford to take the class to, you know, to get the education to then be even more successful, right? Like it's this snowball. If you think about why the top 1% like of the world is just gets richer and richer and more wealthy, it really is because they can afford to become more successful, right? Like they've got to the point where like now, like every time they spend $1,000 on something, it brings them in $100,000 because they know how to spread that information drastically. And so I do want you to think like the more education you get, the more successful you be. So education is extremely valuable. At the same time, like getting out there and just doing it, like allows you, like you, just the education on its own isn't going to do anything for you. You got to get out there and use that education, right? So as soon as you learn something, implement it, try it out, see if it works, and then improve from there. But I do warn you also about just like doing so much that you have no time to educate yourself. Like some people do that. They just get into it and they get in this rut of like they charge a really low amount and they just make enough to squeak by and make their living. But then like they have no free time to actually educate themselves because every moment they have to go and do this other job and do these other things. So it's super important to pick and choose what you do so that you can educate yourself as well. And the last thing I want to say on this, like, is like a little bit more on the education factor. Like when you start to realize like how much it affects you, you're going to realize like there's certain things out there. Like I've gone to $2,000 trainings where I only learned one tip, but I know that one tip made me well over $2,000. Like it was so worth it to learn that one tip. And the one I'm thinking of right now, I went to a real estate seminar and I was like, okay, I'm not interested at all in dealing with real estate, but I do think this guy has really good processes for finding people to join his programs and stuff. So I wanted to see what he was doing to do that. So I went to his program, and one of the tips he gave me was, on your business card, there should be a reason for them to keep the business card, right? Like most people, they get a business card and they're like, oh, that's cool, and they throw it away, or they put it somewhere, like they keep it, but they put it somewhere where they're never gonna see it, and they forget about it, right? They forget about you. Whereas he said, like, put something on the card that makes them want to keep it. For example, get a 10% discount on your first lesson with me, or on this, or your first night when you come to my class, or something like that. It just makes them go, oh, like, and it even make it so that they have to like give you the flyer or give you the business card back in order to get that deal, or they at least have to write down the coupon code or something that makes them like not just throw it away, but do something where, like, when I get a card like that, where it's like, martial arts, someone said, here's a business card with a coupon for a free martial arts lesson. Thing I did, I put it in my fridge, right? So every day I open that fridge, I see it, because, or I put it in my wallet because I want to see it multiple times, because I know I want to use it, right? So someday, like, I'm going to use that thing. So I put it up on the fridge, and sure enough, I did use it eventually. It took a while. They say someone has to look at something at least 13 times before they decide to go use that thing. So by putting something on it that's so valuable that person has to keep it. Like, I can't tell you how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I probably earned from that, because of organizers that saw it and decided to keep this, because, I want 10% off of Andrew, bringing Andrew to come teach for me, or something like that. Or maybe they were even just a dancer, and I gave them a card that was 10% off one of my lessons, or something like that, or a free lesson online, or something that just made them go, oh yeah, I'm going to join his mailing list or something. But basically, you have to have a way for them to like want to stay in touch with you. And that tip alone, that will make you thousands and thousands of dollars along the years. And you won't know it now. Now you're like, it's just a little tip. But as you implement that and you actually start using it, you're going to start seeing, oh man, look at all these contacts I have that I didn't have before. And oh man, that person just hired me to teach a gig, and I made $6,000 at that gig, right? Like, that's the kind of stuff that happens because of this. So anyway, I got to close up and wrap up for today, but I hope that helped. I hope that served you and really gave you some ideas of what you can do to find a pro partner, as well as for some gigs. And again, I'm going to go into deep dive training for you guys that are on my list here. Like, it's going to be a separate training, but it's really, I'm mainly advertising it to you guys so that you guys get the most from this. Because basically the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start advertising this and saying, hey, you guys that are interested, sign up for it and purchase it. And when you purchase it, I'm going to ask you what needs to be in this training, and then you're going to tell me what you need in this training, and then I'm going to develop the whole training based off what you guys want in it. And then I'm going to advertise it to the general public as well and say, okay, here's the training that we're doing. It's including these different things, and you guys are welcome to join in it as well. But those of you that are already on my list, that are already in this dance training, are the ones that are going to get to choose what we develop and how deep we develop each section. So if you want more on how to get hired, like the specifics of offering a really killer offer, maybe we'll spend more time on that. Or if most of you want, no, we want to spend more time on just getting prospects on and how to get them to make that first response, right? We can spend more time on that. Or if you want to, like focus on, no, how do we teach those really killer lessons so that we get rehired, we'll spend more time on that. But basically, you guys get to decide what the 4-week training is going to be on. So with that said, keep an eye out for that. It's going to be sometime in the next month that I'll start advertising that to you guys. And other than that, thank you very much. And Dance Ninjas out. I should go, oh yeah.